Oh, okay. Okay, so I've met some of you already. I keep saying Dr. Korcok, but my instinct is to say Pastor Korcok. I'm way more comfortable with that. I was a pastor for many, many years. First in Barrie, north of Toronto, and then at Grace Loxley, which is just south of Pembroke. We were there for 13 years. Already, no matter where you go, you find some of those people from the Ottawa Valley. They're everywhere. They're some of the warmest, kindest people you'll ever hope to meet. And when we were at Grace Loxley, we started a school, and I was very curious about why Lutheran churches have schools, so what is it that makes it distinctive? And that kind of led me on a whole journey. It led me on a journey, first of all, to Scotland, to study Lutheran education. I know that sounds like a weird place to study Lutheran education. Go to a country where there are no Lutherans. But that's what I did. And then I ended up back in Canada serving with the military. So I was a military chaplain. And when I was sailing with the Navy off of Esquimalt, which is in Victoria. And I got a phone. I said to my wife, I gave her a call. I said, that's it. I'm just going to do this for the rest of my career. I love being a military chaplain. The pay is good. The conditions I loved. And never do that to God. Because then that's when he says, oh yeah? And literally a week after I made that phone call, I got a call from Concordia University in Chicago. And they said, hey, would you like to teach here? And I just hung up the phone and literally, forgive my language, I said, crap. Because I knew God had changed my plans. And I wasn't even going to go for an interview. And Doreen's my wife, by the way. She said, go, it's a free trip to Chicago. And I'm so cheap, I had to go because it's free. And I got there and I did the interview and it's like, yeah, I knew that's where God had placed me. And so in Chicago, I did a lot of work in Lutheran education, in what makes for Christian education, what are our goals? And it kind of made me start thinking like, you go to school and it's all just about learning how to do this and that and math and science and writing and reading and what have you. But to what end? Why learn it? And that's where I got started just learning about what beauty is and what constitutes beautiful. Because that became, maybe this is what is the goal. Maybe this is what we should be learning about or learning toward. Well, from there, COVID hit, and I was stuck in Niagara-on-the-Lake. That's where I'm from originally, and we had a house there. So I was stuck on that side of the border, and I got a phone call again. I was actually with the military up in Borden, never do stuff with the military, and I'm at Borden, and I get a phone call saying, hey, this is Dr. Ristow from Concordia Seminary. Would you consider teaching with us? To which I burst out laughing, said, no way, hung up the phone, and of course, that's where I am now. So I've been there for 6 years, and it's just a great little school. And later on in the morning, I'm going to take just 10 minutes and show you a little bit about that school. So, we're a smaller number today. Actually bigger than we were a half hour ago. A half hour ago I was thinking, oh no, we're not going to have anyone here. So it's great that you all braved the weather and came out. That's just wonderful. And because of the numbers, I'm not a real formal guy, right? You probably could tell already. So if you have comments or questions, just feel free to interrupt. Let's not do the I talk, you listen type routine. Let's make it more of a conversation and feel free to jump in as we go along. I think that'll make it more interesting, and with our numbers, we're really able to do that well. Okay? So I'm calling this, originally I said Finding Beauty in an Ugly World, and I changed it. Because that says that the original title says our world is ugly. And I thought, no, that's not what I want to convey at all. And I think you're going to where we're going to end up, you're going to see why I changed it to ugly times and not an ugly world. And that's an important distinction. And the way I want to start off is by looking at Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is anything excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And so here, Paul to the Philippians is encouraging us to do what?
Be encouraged. Focus on the positive.
Well, focus on the positive, right? And he says, think about these things. True, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable. If anything is excellent or worthy of praise, think about those things. Now, here's the problem, because we live in a world that sometimes makes it pretty difficult to think about those things, right? We live in a culture that has been called a culture of ugliness. And there's a real hunger, I think, for something that's truly beautiful, something that is true, pure, noble, lovely, and the like. In a piece written to UK's Daily Mail, philosopher Roger Scruton, and he just passed away 2 years ago, but he wrote a lot about finding beauty and the nature of beauty. And he was a devout Christian, but he was a very thoughtful philosopher. And he wrote, "In the modern age, we are surrounded by man-made ugliness. And artists who used to devote their efforts to idealizing the human form, to recording the charms of nature and bringing order and beauty to our sorrows, are no longer interested in these tasks. Galleries of contemporary art are filled with the debris of modern life, with subhuman figures purposely designed to demean and desecrate the human image with ludicrous installations that mean nothing at all. This lapse into ugliness is nowhere more important and more intrusive than in the desolate city centers produced by modern architects." Now, Scruton would never say, "Oh, all modern art is bad," or "all modern architecture is bad." By no means. But what he was criticizing was just this desire to avoid that which is beautiful for the sake of something else. And if when you go into a city, we were just in Ottawa, and our eyes were always drawn to the old buildings because they were designed with a lot of symmetry and a lot of pleasing lines to it. It's hard to argue with what Dr. Scruton had to say. The cult of ugliness is all around us. All you have to do is go to a Walmart. And no one looks at a Walmart and say, "Boy, that's a beautiful building." Right? I'm just blown away by how gorgeous that. We were in Chicago and we went to the old Marshall Fields building. And there's stained glass windows and oak paneling, and what a contrast to Walmart. So we're surrounded by ugly eyesores. This is the Art Gallery of Ontario, and they added this. I mean, it's been criticized all over the place. They added this postmodern glass structure onto it. Now, some say it's nice, but okay. So we're surrounded by these eyesores, which are designed to desecrate whatever remaining scraps of sacredness we may have remaining in our culture. It's common in a lot of contemporary art. This first part by Duchamp, it was famous. It was done in 1917 in the midst of World War I, and it's a urinal signed by R. Mutt, right? It's not even the artist. And that's regarded as art. And then I have a painting by Twombly, which are just circles and scribbles. And you say, well, what is that trying to convey? What is it? Where's the beauty in that? So it's not only in our in our architecture, it's not only in our art. We're surrounded by a cult of ugliness in language with shouting and anger. This is sorry. Here. There you go. Now that's an older thing with, what's his name? Who was the...
Gordon Ramsay.
Right, yeah, who used to yell at people on TV. I was tempted to put a politician in here, but we're just surrounded by ugly words and anger, and it's not pleasing to listen to. We're surrounded by music. This is Nine Inch Nails. And if you listen to Nine Inch Nails, it's music filled with anger and discord. So we're surrounded by ugly sounds. We're surrounded by ugly sexuality that distorts where the only value of a beautiful body can be found in the physical pleasure that it renders me. There's no beauty found in the body, right? We look at it as, well, what can it do for me? And it's very much a Walmart approach to life, right? How does Walmart meet your needs? Okay, right. Elsewhere, Scruton has observed that modernity, that's the times we live in, has done everything in its power to destroy that which is beautiful, desecrating not only sexual intimacy, but even death, portraying such sacred things as impersonal and destroying all sense of their spiritual significance. Is there spiritual significance to how we die? Is death an ugly thing? Right? If it is, then we may as well hasten it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Can beauty be found even in one's death? So he says, imagine now a world in which people are shown an interest in replicas of Brillo boxes, and this is a piece of art by Andy Warhol, where he stacked up replica Brillo boxes in signed urinals, in crucifixes pickled in urine, or in similarly lifted from the debris of life, put on display with some kind of satirical look-at-me intention. In other words, the increasing standard fare of modern official art shown in Europe and North America. This is it's a piece of art called My Bed, and it's just a bunch of debris scattered about by Tracy Emin. And contrast that with other works by Giotto. This is the Mourning of Christ. Again, it's sad, right? It's not pretty, but it conveys a certain beauty. And then another by, how do you say the name, Doreen? Velasquez, right. I always get the name wrong. Of course, right, he continues and says, of course, there would be the fact putting objects on display and the fact of our looking at them through aesthetic spectacles. But it would be a world in which human aspirations no longer find their artistic expression, in which we no longer make for ourselves images of the transcendent, and in which mounds of rubbish cover the sites of our ideals. So the idea is there nothing transcendent? Is there nothing greater than ourselves that we are aspiring to? Now, as Christians, there is, right? I'll give the answer to that. Yes, there is. But the world in which we live said, no, there isn't. And so all you can look to is an unmade bed and a bit of trash on the floor. This willful desecration of body is also a desecration of love. Our culture, with its exaltation of functionality and its adoration of scientism, has deliberately attempted to remake the world as though love didn't have a place in it. Scruton observed that postmodern culture is a loveless culture, determined to portray the human world as unlovable. And what I want to say and this is where we're going to end up, is that actually this world that God has given us is very lovable and very lovely. Now, this is the depressing part of the presentation, by the way. Okay. Any comments or before? And I don't want to just riff on, I hate that piece of art or whatever.
My oldest boy has some talent as an artist. So we visited a museum of modern art.
Right.
He gave up.
Yeah, okay.
Really, because he looked around and he said, they have nothing to say.
Right. Well, and that's it. What are we trying to say?
Yeah.
Right. So here's the challenge question. What is beauty? What is the beautiful?
It's from within, you can't see it.
Pardon?
It's from within, you can't see it.
Okay, it's from within, you can't see it. You've seen that line before, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
Right? Okay, it's almost a given. Beauty in the eye of the beholder is regarded as almost an absolute. Anytime there's a disagreement over art or architecture, clothing, hairstyle, tattoos, body piercings, it's not too long before someone will solemnly say, well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Especially
The phrase...
someone who cannot see.
Well, yeah,
Right.
right.
Yes,
The-
the beauty is from within.
Right. The phrase asserts that no one can, with certainty, judge something to be ugly or unsightly. Those who do so are narrow-minded and intolerant. Some will wrongly attribute that wisdom to Plato. And in fact, if you go on Google and you type this in, you'll see all these pictures of Plato. And Plato said this. In fact, Plato would have never said this. He would have steadfastly rejected this because he maintained that there's a perfect beauty apart from ourselves, and it has its origins in the divine. Now, here's the thing. Few, in reality, really, really believe this. So I like to use the example. If you're to go for a stroll on a beach, and you come across a rotting fish. We live on Lake Ontario, and in the springtime, the salmon spawn and then they die on the beach. It may be interesting, right? It may be fascinating to look at this rotting fish, but no one ever says, wow, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. On the other hand, when you go for a stroll on the beach at sunset and see the sun setting, few will ever say, that's awful, just to avert my eyes. So even in this world where this is regarded as an absolute, really, we do acknowledge that there are certain things that just are beautiful, and certain things that are not, and it's inescapable. Now, interesting, this phrase, I said, well, where did this come from? It came from a 19th century novel called Molly Brawn by a romantic novelist, Margaret Hungerford, and the person who says it is kind of the buffoon in the novel, like he's the clown of the novel, and so he says this and everyone ridicules him for saying it. But it's gone from that type of usage to almost an absolute. And why is that? Part of it's because of the time in which we live. So especially in the 20th century, science is everything, right? And so if you can't analyze it, measure it, and quantify it, then it must not be valid or true. And so things like beauty, you can't measure that, so maybe it doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, if it's relative, then why should we even talk about it or teach it? Which gets back to the problem with schools, right? Why bother teaching that which is beautiful if you really don't know what it is? Okay, so what can we say about this? Plato, when he's talking, right? You know who Plato is. If you know one Greek philosopher, it's Plato. Everyone knows something about Plato, Right? He has a beard. That's it. So he's saying, oh, this beauty, and he would say not only beauty. There are three things: beauty, truth, and goodness. They are all kind of interlinked, right? They all emanate from, they're shadows of the divine. So if you follow this, eventually you're going to get to God. But he's not thinking like a Christian God. He's not thinking in terms of a personal God. Yeah, right. But there's something that as Christians you can say, maybe there's something here. Now, if you start looking at Scripture, there's all sorts of talk about beauty. So, Psalm 27. One thing I desired of the Lord, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. Now here's the thing. What's he thinking of? He says to be in the temple and to behold the beauty of the Lord. What is that? What do you think he's kind of on? Is it just
architecture of the temple, since it was
okay? Yeah.
I'm thinking more of the presence.
Presence. That's good, right? The presence of God,
Yeah.
right? To be in the presence of that
Presence
which
of the
is.
beauty of the Lord.
Yeah, right. Because God is the embodiment of all that is beautiful, and he's not just the embodiment; he's the source of all. And so when you're kind of stumbling on beauty, you're stumbling on things of godly things, right? God-pleasing things. Here's another one from Psalm 90. Let the beauty of the Lord be upon us and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Let the beauty of the Lord be upon us. Let it come down from heaven and be on us. And then establish the work of our hands. How can we understand that words? Those words, I should say. Yeah.
Well, I think of creativity, right? So
Right.
when God created the world, it was beautiful. And he gave us a certain amount of creativity, whether it's working with our hands, whether it's music, whether it's anything artistic. I think that is a gift from God, and that reflects the beauty.
Yeah, sure, right. So let God's beauty be on us so that what we do in our life is also beautiful. Very good, yeah. Again, from 1 Chronicles, give to the Lord the glory due his name, bring an offering and come before him. O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. So now what is beauty attached to here?
The church.
The church, yeah, but more specifically,
To our own lives.
no.
God's goodness.
The beauty of what?
holiness.
Holiness, right? So there's where you're going to find this holiness, and holiness is that which is set apart. That it's distinct from just your everyday secular type living. It's a gift from God, and there you're going to find beauty. So while God's beauty is revealed in all creation, right? And you see mushrooms growing and flowers and whatever have you, it's most fully revealed in his holiness. And so in the Old Testament, when they came to when Moses came down from the mountain, his face was transfigured. It was white, right? And he had to have a veil. Why? Because he had been in the perfect holiness of God. Now here's another really interesting, it's from Hebrews in the New Testament. And it's, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child and they were not afraid of the king's command. Now, here's the thing. So, why was Moses a beautiful, was he just a pretty cute kid? You know, a little baby, right? Or was he one of those babies? You know, you've seen those babies. Now they grow up to be nice, right? But sometimes babies, when they're born, they aren't. You'll have those babies that.
Mother loves you, that's it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I have seen a cuter baby.
Yeah, right. My second oldest brother, and my mother would say when he was born, he was just an ugly baby, right? And she knew he was not a pretty child, and people would try and go, oh, he'll get better. And no, he did. Actually, he looks a lot. People mistake us. So I don't know what that says. Maybe. So okay. No, we know Moses wasn't just a pretty kid. So what made Moses beautiful then, as a baby?
Well, maybe he didn't cry a lot.
Well, no, Moses cried. Because babies cry. They need to cry. But
They
look,
could tell that he was going to be holy, significant in that way.
yeah. Well, look at the connection. And they were not afraid of the king's command. So there's something in the beauty that Moses possessed, or something in the way that Moses looked or came to them or was presented, that made them unafraid of evil.
Yeah.
And they're, by the king's commands, they're talking about Pharaoh and the edict to kill all the boys, right? So here Moses has the beauty of the Lord in that he knows no wickedness, and that God is going to use him to overcome wickedness. And they say, oh, that's beautiful, right? There's the beauty of the Lord. And then finally, from Romans, how shall they preach unless they are sent, as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace, who bring glad tidings of good things. Now, I'm not going to ask Pastor to take off his socks and shoes right now so we can all look at his feet to see if they're beautiful. They may be nice, they may be right? So what would make Pastor's feet beautiful?
Getting out and seeing people and preaching the gospel.
Okay, why? Because they are the feet that carries the man who preaches the thing which is most beautiful, the gospel, good news, right? So yeah, Pastor, keep your shoes on for now. Right. Any thoughts? Any comments on that? We'll stop it.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school in Montreal, this was in the 50s, and in those days, Montreal had a lot of great, big, beautiful Roman Catholic churches that were open all day long. And near where my high school was the Church of Saint Pierre Claver in Montreal. And if you know that, it is one of the most insanely beautiful churches that I've ever seen anywhere in North America. It was modeled very much on the Romanesque churches like St. John the Divine and so on, and St. John's in the Lateran and Rome. So when I got finished through a day in high school, I used to love to just walk in there and sit and look and tell myself there is something better.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It instilled a certain hope in me.
And we kind of fell, in the 1960s, I like to say we started designing churches like dentist offices. And we just walked away from this idea that a church should have this sense of the holiness, the beauty of God.
Holiness, yes.
So yesterday my wife and I, we went into Notre Dame in Ottawa because that's that beautiful church. And just walking in, and you get this sense of a hushed beauty.
Yes.
Right? And you don't even want to talk loud. You talk in whispers, even though no one is there. It's in the gospel that the second person of the Trinity, the Son, is made flesh, so that the fullness of the beauty of God can be seen with our eyes and touched with our hands and even tasted. It's fully revealed to us in his gospel. So Christ became man not so that we could become gods. He became man so we could be more fully and completely human and appreciate the beauty of God in his holiness in this life as well as in the life to come. That he comes into the ugliness of our world to redeem the whole world and us as well with his innocent suffering and death. This is the word that makes the feet of those who proclaim it and administer it so beautiful. Yeah.
So what I'm getting so far is beauty comes from God,
Right.
right? And we in this world, God lets us transmit that beauty into the world, and that's how beauty happens in this world that we're in. Is
Yeah.
that accurate?
Yeah, that's good.
Because it happens, beauty happens through our thoughts, our hands, our actions, our deeds.
Right.
And that comes from God. But today, it seems like that's like kind of like cut off. That channel has been cut off.
Yeah, and we've
So
kind of
we
just ignored it.
So the ugliness of what's around us.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always think that God gives us a gift. Whatever, he gives everybody gifts. Well, I always have a good outlook, so I always feel that I gotta share that as well. But when I worked 40 years in a hospital, and there is a lot of beauty in the hospital. I know I'm med lab tech, so I had to go and take blood everywhere.
Right.
But then I also did the work in the hospital, like do it in the lab. And it was fun. And it was something I felt, while the people that we work with, we share our last. I go to ICU, and one of the girls who was Irish, she could have people that were hooked up to all kinds of stuff laughing because she was just a fun person. And
You're
she
right.
could always tell a good joke. And there's nothing better than to see people smiling even when they're ill. And you know what? Smiling and being happy will promote a lot of healing. And you
Right.
can tell that there's Christ in that person.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I felt that it was a fun place to go. I loved my work.
Right.
Absolutely loved it. And I felt that I was doing part of his work.
Exactly. And I'm going to get into that this afternoon about the beauty isn't just the pretty. It's seen in all sorts of different avenues. But more on that later. So earlier I said you have these three things, truth, goodness, and beauty, right? And they're all interlinked. So when Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he's using the word truth in a different way than a scientist would use it. When a scientist uses it, it says, well, what are the facts
Which are the facts,
here,
yeah.
right? But what Christ is saying is is that you can trust me, and by trusting in me, you're going to come to know something deeper about God, about the world, and about yourself, and that this truth will open your eyes to who you are and what the world is. Beauty is in a way that, no, let me say that again. Beauty is that way, right? It's not just this combination of colors or this portrayal of something, but rather it's that it conveys a truth in a way that leads us to better understand God, ourselves, and the world around us, and to appreciate it for what it really is. So just as truth is this kind of unending thing that takes us deeper, so beauty is the same thing. So it's not just a sensory thing. It's just not something that pleases us or makes us feel good. While beauty does involve the senses for sure, It's external to us. It's outside of us. The senses are involved because they transmit the beautiful to the heart and the soul and the mind. Thus, beauty is first and foremost a spiritual thing that directs our attention away from ourselves, away from the ugliness of our sin and our own little bad thoughts, and towards the noble and praiseworthy things of God. And I think that's what you were just getting at right now.
Yeah. There was something else.
Right. So the need for beauty lies deep within us. I've often wondered how we reflect the one who created us. I've often wondered why creation is so beautiful when nobody often sees it. We love snorkeling, right? And I marvel when you have like these beautiful creatures in the bottom of the sea and nobody sees it, right? Starfish and anemone, octopi, corals, and it's all down there, and rarely does anyone see it, and yet it's so beautiful. Each is dazzling in its own way. Why did God make them that way if no one ever sees it? We think that because we're so self-centered, right? It's all about me. So I didn't see it, therefore what use is it? Well, no. God didn't just create these things for our benefit and so we could be pleased. Rather, they are manifestations of just who God is. He couldn't have created it any other way than to be beautiful. It's just impossible. So, Johann Kepler, has anyone heard of Kepler? No one?
Yes.
Oh, one. Excellent. So, if you're into science at all,
Yes.
Kepler is well known. He was a 17th and 18th century German astronomer and mathematician. He's also Lutheran, by the way.
Yes.
So, but Kepler, so one day he's in Prague, and it's in December, and he's walking across a bridge, and he snowflakes, the real giant big snowflakes are falling. And these snowflakes land on his sleeve, and he starts looking at them, and he thought, why is a snowflake the way it is? It's this crystalline structure that is this model of symmetry and beauty. And you look at blowing up pictures of snowflakes, and they are. And so he writes this book. It's called On a Snowflake. And it's kind of a whimsical book. It's really small. And he just explores all the different reasons why a snowflake should be why it is, and they all fall short. And interestingly enough, no one can figure out a snowflake until well into the 20th century. But the conclusion of the book, On a Snowflake, is the reason snowflakes are beautiful is because God is beautiful. And God is a whimsical God. And he likes to create beautiful things. And that's why snowflakes are the way they are. It just has to be that way.
Are they all unique?
And they're all unique, right? Yes. So we're all created in the image of God. And one of the aspects of that image is we all want to share in the beauty. That's how we're created as well. It was part of the image of God that our first parents possessed. And with the fall, ugliness entered the world. Ugliness is a foreigner. It's an interloper into this world. It should not be there. But just as sin could not erase the image of God, so I'm going to step into the theology world for a bit. So when we sin, the image of God, the understanding of God, the knowledge of God is mussed up. It's not destroyed, it's just really distorted and mussed up. So we still know there's a God out there. We know he's powerful, we know he's just, but there's very little we can know. That's this remnant of how we were created. So in the same way is with beauty, and why we have this craving for beauty. It's the same reason we have a craving for holiness and a craving for goodness and all. We want what was originally ours. And so, why is it that we make gardens orderly. And I even think of this in terms of vegetable gardens. I always have vegetables in our backyard. And even a vegetable garden, which is very utilitarian in nature, you're doing it so you can grow beets and beans and carrots, are very orderly, and we take great care in making sure those seeds are all lined up. They don't have to, but we do it, right? Why is it so important to us that we make our bed in the morning? Even after we're grown up and our mothers are no longer around, we still make, well, maybe some of us don't, but you still make your bed. You still clean up the house so it's nice and neat and orderly. Could it be that these are ways that we react against the chaos in our world, the chaos in our lives that's brought into our world through sin, and we're just trying to restore a little bit of the Garden of Eden in our lives, just a smidgen, right? Could all be part of a deeper striving to return to the world of perfect order, of perfect beauty, to return to Eden. Or, for that matter, why does a husband consider her wife beautiful? Is it just because she's pretty? When I had confirmation classes, I remember having a conversation with, this is years ago, and it was over Shania Twain, and we were talking about Shania Twain. And now I'm dating myself, I know. But one of the girls said, "Oh, she's so hot." And is hot the measure of beauty, right? And what happens when you're not hot anymore? Are you no longer beautiful? I've often thought there's rarely a connection between physical beauty and a man regarding his wife as beautiful. And so, a husband can be quite dumpy, and yet his wife considers him handsome. And a wife can be kind of all wrinkly and old and hunched over, and yet men will often say, "She's so beautiful." And what is it? Is that just a physical beauty? Or is there something deeper? Could it be that the marital bond itself between a husband and wife is this beautiful relationship that reflects the bride of Christ, the church, to the heavenly bridegroom? And so in husbands and wife, we rejoice in the beauty of that heavenly relationship that God establishes with us in Christ. Right. Unfortunately, like I said, sin has corrupted this world, and all our attempts of beauty will always fall short. Every piece of art, music, literature, architecture, and whatever else will always be imperfect and flawed, and that's why people say, "Well, I don't see the beauty in it." Right? Well, part of it is because what we create is imperfect, but the other part is because we're imperfect. Mm-hmm. And we can't agree on it. But that doesn't mean that we should just give up and say, there's no beauty, forget it. No, quite to the contrary. There's some things that we can and should strive after as the people who possess the holiness of God. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and we got about 10 minutes before 12, so comments or questions. I've thrown just a ton of stuff out at you.
Well, you mentioned the church in Guelph that is so beautiful.
Oh, no, I was that was in Ottawa, but yeah, I know the church in Guelph you're talking about too.
I guess I misheard, but
yeah.
It made me think of the church in Guelph, where literally every year thousands of atheists go to take pictures in front of it.
Oh,
because
sure.
It's such a pretty building.
Yeah.
And it wasn't built the way it was because some guy was like, in 1,000 years, a bunch of atheists will think this looks good.
Right. Yeah.
It was built because they were trying to, express the beauty of God, and then thousands of years, people who reject him still think that he's beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Well, think of Notre Dame in Paris, right? Now, Paris is one of the most secularized nations in the West, and yet when it burned down, people were like just devastated. and they resolved to rebuild it as it was. If you're truly, absolutely secular, right? And there's no such thing as a person who's absolutely secular. People want to think they are, they aren't, right? We're all directing in this way. But if you're truly, you would say, oh, well, that was just a 1,000-year-old building. Let's build something more utilitarian. But no,
we didn't.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
That tells me that you're atheist secular, even they cannot deny the beauty of God.
Right. Yes. Now that's going to feed into how we view this world around us, and I'm going to get into that. That we don't look at this world as being like, ooh, secular world bad, right?
Isn't there actually a little bit of a contradiction in the modern world where, we build a new building and almost make it purposely ugly, and yet within 2 days we'll donate $1 billion to restore an 800-year-old building.
Yeah.
To its original. It seems to me that somehow there's a real conflict in the modern world that
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sure.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
If I've missed the mark, you don't have to answer them. But one of them is, why is ugliness so addictive often? You see a car crash, you have to look. True crime, a lot of people watch it. And
Right.
also, how should we react to ugliness? Should we be scoffing at the artists who put urinals on display and things like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
But are you looking at the car accident, or are you looking at the emergency workers doing God's work?
Or the reaction that you want to be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, let's use my rotting fish thing. And when I see those, I poke them and I look at them, right? And I'm like, ew, what's that? Oh, look at maggots, ew, right? Now, that's not evoking a sense of beauty. I don't know, any other
Well,
thoughts?
the knowledge
Sense of
is that there's
curiosity.
another purpose for it.
Yeah.
And something is dead. It's still purpose for something.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what is it when you see a car crash that you have to slow down and look. It's horrendous. Or when there's a traumatic scene, right? I've been first on scene when we've had an accident. One time we had a really terrible accident in Pembroke, and I was first on there, and I couldn't help but look at these dead people. But that's not to rejoice over. I don't know.
Maybe it's
There's
just
something
to contemplate.
there's something profound there. I don't know what it is though. I don't know. Pastor, do you have
Well, I'm just first going to turn the iPad off because it's still recording, and I can't have it go over an hour. But
okay.
when you have an attraction